Hi everybody, it's Tanya and welcome to today's video. So this video is going to be the last in my Count of Monte Cristo series, mini-series. So if you're new here, recently I finished reading the Count of Monte Cristo by Alexandre Dumas and I loved the book. So I decided to make this mini video series to kind of share my thoughts about the book, to share my love for the book, and to encourage other people to read it. And so this video is going to be the last one. Today we are going to talk about 11 books to read after the Count of Monte Cristo. I think I belong to the category of people who wanted this book. Even though it is 1,200 pages long, I'm one of those people who wanted this book to be longer. Partly because I thought that some parts of it were not shown sufficiently. I mean, they were not shown at all, and partly because I really did just had a very good time with it and I would like to have more time with it. So yeah, I'm one of those people who wants this book to be even longer than it is currently. But since it's not, and there is no hope of it being longer since Alexandre Dumas has been dead for a long time, we're going to do without it being long. We have to find some other books that would fill the void in our hearts. So today I'm going to suggest you 11 books that hopefully will fill that void. I haven't read them. This is a list that I have compiled for myself, that I also need to read and to check out. But this book, they do sound somewhat similar to the Count of Monte Cristo. A few of them are very famous for having this suspense that you experience with this book. A few of them are also famous for wonderful plotting and characters and this like romantic sujet and plot and characters. The first book is a modern novel by a modern writer. So the first book that I want to suggest and that I need to check out myself is A Place of Greater Safety by Hilary Mantel. Hilary Mantel, if you don't know, she is twice Booker Prize winner. She is the author of the Wolf Hall trilogy, and yeah, so she won the Booker Prize for the first two books in the series, not for this book, but still, that's an achievement. And it's a book by this wonderful author, so I'm sure it's going to be great. This is a historical novel set in France during French Revolution. It is the year 1789 and three young men arrive to Paris to make life for themselves. Two of them are lawyers, one of them is this like cold-minded, talented, energetic, pragmatic and debt-ridden lawyer. The second one is just as talented, but he is humble, he is very diligent, and he is terrified of violence. The third person is a very talented writer. He is charming, erratic, untrustworthy, and he is bisexual. He is obsessed with a woman, however he is engaged to marry another one who is actually her daughter. And so these three enigmatic, talented characters will be the characters whom we are following in this novel, and they all will have part to play in the French Revolution. They will all experience this addictive character of having power and the price that they have to pay for having it. So the premise sounds wonderful. Also the fact that the author is so well known and so beloved also makes me excited. And I think it's maybe it could be a good place to start with Hilary Mantel, because obviously Wolf Hall trilogy is a huge commitment, 3 big books, and this is just one, it's not a series. So yeah, this is the first book that I want to suggest you. The second book I want to suggest you is Scaramouche by Raffaele Sabatini. This is a story of a man, quoting, who was born with a gift of laughter and the sense that the world around him was mad. The book is set during the French Revolution and we follow a story of André Louis, a young man who witnesses the assassination of his best friend. After this assassination, he decides to revenge his friend, and he sets on a quest of revenge. He is also forced to leave his hometown after stirring the revolutionary fever in there. So he flees his hometown and he joins traveling circus, where he disguises himself as this rogue Scaramouche. And his adventures involve pretty much the same what Count of Monte Cristo adventures involve, which is terrible family secrets, romance, treachery, duels, disguises, and all of those things. So Scaramouche is the second novel I am suggesting. Book number 2, as far as I understand, is a non-fiction, so it's a biography. The Black Count by Tom Race. This is an exciting one because this is a biography of Alexandre Dumas' father. If you didn't know, Alexandre Dumas based a lot of his characters, including the Count of Monte Cristo, on his father, because his father was just a remarkable person who is unfortunately forgotten by now. He actually was born in Haiti. He's the son of a black slave who made his way to Paris, and then he achieved such high positions in French society which no black person before him has ever achieved. He became a general in the French army, and he was commanding armies during the French Revolution, so he had quite a life quite a life. And so this book will tell you all about his exploits and adventures, and it's even more fascinating and interesting because of the fact that he's a real figure, and he's the real figure behind the Count of Monte Cristo, even though the Count of Monte Cristo is like partly based on him and partly on a different story. Still exciting and still very interesting. So The Black Count is another book I'm suggesting. Book number 4 is Matthias Sandorf by Jules Verne. Now, this book is going to be very similar to the Count of Monte Cristo for one reason. It is a tribute to the Count of Monte Cristo. So Jules Verne wrote this book after he read the Count of Monte Cristo, was really impressed, and he decided to write his own version of the novel. Matthias Sandorf follows a story of, again, treason and then revenge. There are two characters who intercept this male pigeon, and they discover a plot to liberate Hungary from Austro-Hungarian rule. They discover those 3 people and they kill all 3 of them, assassinate all 3. A few years later, their friend, a doctor, decides to avenge his friends. And this novel is going to include everything that you would expect from Jules Verne. It includes cryptograms, pirates, acrobats, so all of those like exciting characters. Our doctor, who is on the quest to avenge his friends, will actually hire 2 acrobats, and then he will go to the Mediterranean to search for the people who betrayed his friends. So it is a revenge story. It is quite similar to the Count of Monte Cristo, but you know, it's going to have its own spin on it, so I am very curious actually to give this book a try. Book number 5 is Scarlet Pimpernel by Baroness Orczy. It sounds like a very exciting story, and this is actually the ancestor of all the disguised characters such as Batman, such as Zorro, so that's also interesting. In this novel, the story also takes place during the French Revolution. So not surprisingly, a lot of these books that I'm suggesting you today take place during French Revolution, or before or after. So French Revolution, yeah, this is the topic of the video apparently. This book is also set during the French Revolution. Aristocrats are being arrested by the French police and are being sent to prison. There's this one man who decides to right the wrongs, and he decides to free these British aristocrats. He disguises himself and he takes this name Scarlet Pimpernel. He frees aristocrats from prison, and then he leaves his signature mark on walls, which is this red flower. This book is also supposed to be a romance story because he has a wife who might unwillingly betray him or something like that, from what I understand from the synopsis. So yeah, this book is also supposed to be something very exciting and gripping, and it was also a bestseller when it was first published. Now probably the most obvious suggestion, because of course, if you want more Alexandre Dumas writing, what should you read? You should probably read Alexandre Dumas. So then you can pick up basically any of his books. So he has his very famous series, whom some people prefer actually to the Count of Monte Cristo, being Three Musketeers. Or he has a very interesting, his last novel, which apparently was discovered very recently. It was lost in like this French library archives somewhere, and so apparently recently it was rediscovered. The novel is called Last Cavalier. This is also supposed to be a story of vengeance set during the Napoleonic rule. This has also something to do with family honor. The synopsis doesn't really tell you much, but if it's Alexandre Dumas, I think you know what you can expect. So yeah, this is also a novel that I am excited to try and to explore. Book number 7 is 1001 Night, or Arabian Nights. Again, it's probably an obvious suggestion, because in this book there are a lot of allusions to 1001 Night. Like, for example, Count of Monte Cristo calls himself Sinbad the Sailor, like if he wants to disguise himself, so Sinbad the Sailor. There are also allusions to Ali Baba Cave of Wonders. So logically, I would recommend you 1001 Night, and this is also a novel that I have to read. But apparently it's huge, because in this Penguin editions there's 3 volumes. 3 volumes! The first volume is 1000 pages, and then the other 2 are like 800 pages. So that's a commitment. I'm sure you know all about it. And yeah, this is another book that you could explore, and which I should explore. But yeah, it's a commitment. That's a commitment. Actually, a lot of these books on this list could be a good suggestion for the BBB book club, because a lot of them are quite chunky and quite long. So yeah, some of them you will definitely see in the near future for the BBB books suggestions. The next book is very exciting, and I learned about it actually by accident, because a member of my book club shared the picture of this book on the Discord. So that's how I first learned about it, and then I read the introduction to the Count of Monte Cristo, and this book is also mentioned in the introduction to the Count of Monte Cristo. This is The Mysteries of Paris by Eugenie Sue. This is super exciting. It's another huge novel. It's even bigger than the Count of Monte Cristo, because it's like 1300 something pages. So perfect. Perfect for the BBB. This is one of France's first serialized novels, and this book became inspiration and became the predecessor of the Count of Monte Cristo, Les Miserables, and other Hugo writings, because it created this genre of city mystery novel, and it was a bestseller during its time. It was the first novel to create these kind of stories of underbelly of Paris, when these ladies and gentlemen of Paris would see in their city something more than just, you know, beautiful and luxurious place. This novel would create for them this other layer to the city, with like this exciting life that they didn't really see. In this book we follow a huge cast of characters, from what I understand. We have rich characters and poor characters, and their destinies are intertwined. Our main protagonist, Rudolph, meets a prostitute in a poor district of Paris, and he saves her from people who were after her. She's pure and naive, and he tries to protect her. But Rudolph also has his own mysterious quest to explore. This novel is going to be something very exciting, and unfortunately it has been overshadowed by Victor Hugo and the Count of Monte Cristo and other famous writers. But I was so happy to discover it, because it sounds really interesting, and just think, it's the first novel that actually inspired all those great writers, so it has to be something also very interesting. One more suggestion is not so much a book, more probably the author. And again, it's not that it's similar in the plot or it's similar in the topic. I think the main thing that kind of unites Count of Monte Cristo and the book that I'm going to suggest you, the author and his other books, is just the excitement level and how gripping they are, and just like your reader experience, how you're going to experience this book. So the book I'm talking about is Armadale by Wilkie Collins, and Wilkie Collins as a writer in general. I've only read The Woman in White by him, and I can confirm that book was super gripping, and it was practically the same experience as The Count of Monte Cristo, of me not being able to put it down. It was that gripping. Armadale apparently is his best novel, at least according to T.S. Eliot. The book contains one of the most interesting, I guess, female characters in British Victorian literature, because she is the villain. She's the villain. I think one of the... Okay, so I'm reading from my laptop. One of the critics described her as one of the most hardened female villains whose devices and desires have ever blackened fiction. She remains among the most enigmatic and fascinating women in the 19th century literature, and the dark heart of his most sensational of Victorian sensation novels. In this book, an elderly man, Armadale, dies, and on his deathbed he shares his terrible secret. The secret involves a woman, Lydia Glyde, and she is the most cunning woman that you could probably imagine. She is a drug addict, temptress, bigamist, and husband poisoner. And so this book contains her diverse schemes, intrigues. It is also a story of mistaken identities, spies, money, and all of those exciting things that you would want to see in a novel after reading The Count of Monte Cristo. So yeah, Armadale is another novel that I want to suggest. One more novel is Caleb Williams by William Godwin. This is the first crime and detection novel in the English literature. And in here we will follow a young man, Caleb Williams, who starts working as a secretary to this rich gentleman. And then he discovers a terrible secret that this gentleman has been hiding. And even though he has sworn not to reveal the secret, the gentleman falsely accuses him of a crime. And then later on he sets on a vengeful quest. So pretty much also The Count of Monte Cristo. The novel also has some critique towards class inequalities in England of that time, and it's a powerful political allegory inspired by the events that took place after the French Revolution. And the last novel is also going to be similar to The Count of Monte Cristo in terms of genre, because Count of Monte Cristo does have certain elements of Gothic romance. And yeah, so the book I'm suggesting you is Mysteries of Udolpho by Anne Ratcliffe, and basically anything by Anne Ratcliffe. Her novels are supposed to be very exciting and also unputdownable. In this particular novel we will follow a young woman. She finds herself very quickly orphaned, and then she is sent to her aunt's house. But her aunt's new husband has an eye for his wife's riches. He hides these two women in the castle, and it's a very psychologically charged novel, how our young heroine is trying to preserve her sanity while her terrifying uncle is planning different schemes against her and her aunt. So yeah, this novel also was a bestseller. It also inspired this new genre of Gothic romance and Gothic novels, so it's also going to be something unputdownable and exciting. So there you have it, guys, 11 books that I want to check out after reading The Count of Monte Cristo, and that I think are going to be somewhat similar to this book and maybe feel this void in my heart for something exciting, something really interesting and unputdownable. Hopefully you will check them out. Hopefully all of us will enjoy them. And now, yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for following the Count of Monte Cristo mini-series. And yeah, definitely, if you haven't read this book still, give it a try, give it a go. I'm sure you will have a wonderful time with it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a very good day. I hope you're reading good books and enjoying them. And for now, yeah, have a good day. See you soon.